If you haven't shifted your identity, if you haven't shifted your beliefs, then they're almost superfluous. You will always get in your own way.
What are some of those beliefs?
There's lots of beliefs that keep people stuck. Probably the core is
You recognized that there was a need in fitness at that time. And so you created an offer, which basically means that you solve a problem that fits a need.
we had to listen to the market and iterate and then go, all right, well, we've got a different consumer than what we thought. Let's change that. And then we looked at it, and the next thing was we're selling this $400 course like hotcakes. I'm in Thailand, I'm training, I'm barely doing any work, and then I open up and it's just ding, ding, ding.
If I could put it into one word, I would describe it as freedom. The challenge becomes, well, I'm thinking like this, but how do I think like this?
Number one,
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Freedom Formula podcast. Today we have a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Daniel Henderson from Sydney, a very interesting and inspirational fitness leader that is creating change. I mean, from building and selling multiple businesses, his Coastal Body Studio was his first endeavor. Then it was his Functional Body Institute, which he also sold and had an exit from, to finally now doing a whole bunch of other things, which I won't spoil the fun on, but leading a fitness profit mastermind, helping professionals in the fitness space really expand and grow and build businesses that create more and more impact. What I love is the frameworks and the things that we actually discussed. We talk about his model of heart, head, hands, and how. I mean, it's powerful when you sort of understand the model. It's so simple to implement and so easy to keep going and to create true impact in your life. So without further delay, we're going to dive straight into the episode and hear from Daniel and really unpack exactly what it is that he has to share, so you understand what you need to do to make the change you want in your life. Daniel, welcome to the Freedom Formula podcast, mate.
great to be here, mate. We were only here in this very studio a couple of weeks ago, but the roles are reversed.
Yeah, we're flipping the script.
That's it.
But man, it's awesome to have you on here. And I guess, I want to dive straight in and, I want to explore your journey, right? Because you're a freedom fighter. I've been watching you for years, building businesses, creating impact, leading people from the front, evolving yourself. There's a journey there, there's a story there. So let's just I guess, in the most brief and concise way possible, give us a bit of a backstory to sort of where you started. Like, where did Daniel start? And so what did that look like? And then we'll explore from there.
Yeah, so in terms of being a freedom fighter or an entrepreneur or self-employed or whatever category you want to give it, it really started pretty early on in my working career. So I did 5 years at university, came out, got a corporate job, and about a year into that corporate job, I decided that I wanted to do some PT on the side. I just loved fitness, loved helping people. I did an honors degree in human movement, so I wanted to utilize that. And I'm training people out the back of my car. I'm meeting them in parks, beaches,
Yeah, that's what we do.
wherever I could.
Yeah.
And it lit me up. And I got so much joy from it. I could see the impact that I was having, that after 2.5 years in the corporate job and also balancing the outdoor personal training, I was like, no, I want to do this full time. And I didn't have much money at the time. I had very little money. So I needed to get resourceful, because when you lack resources, you got to get resourceful.
Yeah, I love that.
And to set up my personal training studio in Coogee, it was tiny. It was about 30 square meters. I needed $30,000 at the time to do the fit out, the
whole
DA, everything, right? We were bootstrapping this thing.
Yeah, wow.
I had about $15,000 saved up, not a hell of a lot. So what I ended up doing was pre-selling memberships in advance to the clients that I already had. And I pre-sold about $15,000 to $20,000. That allowed me to open the doors. And that was my first foray and experience in being a business owner.
Being a business owner.
Yeah.
So let's sort of rewind the clock a little bit. You were in corporate. And so what kind of corporate role were you in?
Sales.
About sales. So that's interesting, because isn't it funny how I guess sales is kind of the gateway for so many entrepreneurs to the things that are, to come. And I guess if you get into sales, there's something in you that's probably a little bit different. There's something about you that just has that little bit of magic dust about you. So you're in this corporate role, but something, I guess, didn't feel right. So therefore you sort of had this bigger picture idea of things that you wanted to do, which was then leading you into fitness.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the corporate sales. It was for a sportswear company. I managed big accounts, a lot of NRL football teams. It was fun. I was sitting in corporate boxes all the time. I was getting invited to some amazing events. I was only young. I was only 24. And it was a really good experience. Actually, I was probably even younger than that. And it was fantastic. But at the end, I just didn't get the same joy from the work itself. I liked it and it had some glamour, it had some credibility, but it didn't light me up.
Yeah.
No. I didn't want to rip the doona off of a morning.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? If you don't feel that, then of course, then and if you're aspirational like you are, clearly, then you get pulled towards something else. So fitness became that thing. So let's, you build a studio. I'm sure that there was some incredible stories in that, but let's kind of fast forward. So then where did that get to before then you realized that is or was no longer enough that then led you to the next thing?
Yeah, so I was only about 18 months in, and then really by accident, I ended up creating a second business. And at the time, functional training was starting to just enter into the industry
the
itself.
idea, the concept.
The concept of it.
There was a pivotal period in the industry many years ago where, it became obviously the in vogue kind of movement or
correct,
whatnot. Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of people didn't know much about it. Things that are very common today, like kettlebells and battling ropes and bags.
I remember when you released that, actually.
Yeah.
I remember being aware of it. And yeah.
So I wrote Australia's first ever kettlebell course because I was a student. I loved learning.
Awesome. Creating an offer.
And that was
so what was the offer?
So the offer was a 1-day certification. It was a kettlebells level 1 certificate. That then meant that you had the certificate. You're a certified kettlebell instructor. You're insured to deliver kettlebell training. You had the credibility.
Awesome.
And we didn't know what we were creating at the time. It was just a passion project on the side that I was doing. So I had my studio, which was full-time. This was a little passion project. And then all of a sudden we're putting these courses up online and they were selling like this, like hot cakes. I remember just sitting there and I'll never forget it. I was in Thailand at the time training in Muay Thai and I'm sitting there with my business partner and I'm like, have a look at this. Bang, another $400, another 400, another 400. And it was PayPal at the time.
Wow, yeah.
And it was just bang, bang, bang. And I was like, we've got something here. Like there is a demand.
Yeah.
The people have spoken.
Product to market fit.
That's what it was.
Isn't it interesting? And I suppose for those listening that you don't understand yet the concept of an offer really is something that you recognize is timely and could possibly solve a problem or an itch that needs to be scratched, right? So you recognize that there was a need in fitness at that time for fitness professionals to sort of upskill and up level. And there was, I suppose, an opportunity. And so you create an offer, which basically means that you solve a problem that fits a need. And so you initiate that by, putting some feelers out there, right? So for those that haven't yet created an offer, I suppose, what were some of the ways in which you validated the offer? Because we sort of got to the point where, okay, PayPal's going off. You're in Thailand. You're doing your Muay Thai. You're doing what you need to do. But then you're seeing this initial early stages of your offer get validated. But so what were the steps that you went through to get it ready before testing to then saying, okay, we actually have a product to market fit?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what the original business model for that was, let's just create a workshop for the general population so they understand how to utilize a kettlebell in their own training and properly. And so we decided that we would create I think it was a 6-week course, and you'd come in for an hour and a half each week. And we ran this out of Bondi Junction at a premises there, and we took it to the general public.
So you went to consumers, B2C.
I went to consumers.
Yeah,
I went
right.
B2C because I had my studio, which was B2C.
Yeah.
And so that's what I thought. This is an extension of that. And then something interesting happened because that was our beta course. All of a sudden, these fitness pros started enrolling
into that.
Started enrolling into it. And then the first course was more consumers than fitness pros. Then it started to be like 50-50. And then it was like 80-20, 90-10. And I went, wait a second. This is
B2B.
for the fitness industry. This is B2B. This is for fitness professionals, fitness business owners, not the consumer itself. So our initial iteration allowed us to go, is there a demand there? There is, but it's actually not who we thought it was going to be.
I love that, right? So what I love about that is the idea that often things come in packages we don't expect. And so like you're putting something out there thinking you're targeting a particular audience. So your message was, were you using paid ads or was it organic?
It was all organic.
Organic, okay.
You'd laugh at how we were marketing.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the truth, right? I mean, I think things evolve in such a way that if we sort of look back even as little as 12 months ago, we would have a giggle at what we were doing back then. But like if you look back, 10 years, that's a different story altogether. So you're doing organic based, marketing. And so the message was attracting initially consumers. It was B2C driven, but then what you found was those that were actually interested and that were being attracted by the honey, so to speak, right? What the product was a different audience altogether. And so how did you pivot? So you've validated the fact that, okay, so this is something new, it's something interesting. People want it because they're paying for it. That's where we get the proof that something's been validated. As soon as someone exchanges and puts their credit card down, and if it's happening repeatedly, that's solid, undeniable evidence that it's working. So then I love this story. So what did you do then? Like, how did you pivot it to go to B2B? Like, what changed?
So we decided instead of doing it over 6 weeks, that was hard for B2B personal trainers to come 6 weeks in a row, travel over to a location. So let's modify the delivery from a 6-week course to a 1-day course. And let's just do it an intense 1-day workshop. So that was the first thing that changed. Second thing that changed was the communication around it. So why should a fitness professional do this? Well, it gives them a clear USP, a point of difference. They can now be innovative. They can be first to market with this. There's increasing hype and demand. It just come out in like Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body book, kettlebells, and they were starting to get some hype. And so it was like, if you want to be a fitness professional ahead of the game, this is where you need to come into. And then we looked at the marketing itself, and our most effective marketing channel at that point in time was looking and going, who has our audience right now? And who had our audience was Fitness Australia, because we were the first certified kettlebell course. We had credit points, right? So it was CCs. And that was huge for us. So number one, being first to market was massive. Number two, we got accredited, and we had a lot of CECs, and trainers had to get 20 credit points, education points every year. And our courses had a lot of those. And so we would advertise through their mediums, through their e-newsletters and their physical publications. And the trainers loved it because they would, in the past, they would just do courses because they had to. They had to get their credit points. And here was something dynamic. Here was something different. Here was something new. And we had overwhelming demand. I'll never forget it. We used to run them out of UTS in Sydney. And it was a big room. And we had to shut the doors at 30, and we were charging $400 a pop. And here we are going, we're making $12,000 in a day. Like, it was just unheard of.
It's probably looking back, you probably look at that and think, holy shit, we probably should have charged more. Given, if you're booked out, well, you're not charging enough, right?
That's right. Yeah.
If you're booked out and there's people sort of knocking on the door, you're definitely undercharging. And so you've pivoted. And what I heard in there was that then there were considerations of, delivery and the mechanics of that. But what was interesting is how, you used, or you allowed the evidence of the market to dictate then where you moved. And that fundamentally is the secret to entrepreneurship, right? Not being fixated on what we're going to sell because it's a passion. As you said, of course, fitness was a passion project, but nonetheless, you still allowed the evidence, the market, to then dictate, well, where do we actually take this? Like, where is the need? There's a famous saying, right? Which is, where's the best place to put a hot dog stand?
Outside a football stadium.
Where there's a fucking hungry market, right? It doesn't matter where it is. It's where there's a hungry market. So what you identified was, well, there's a hungry market here because the evidence is showing me. And so you sort of went down that path. And I love that sort of ability to diagnose and the intuition first. The intuition, this is something that is new, it's interesting, it's different. It positions us in terms of like it's our own USP in the education sector. Getting yourself accredited was a brilliant chess move. If that was a fucking chess game, that was a chess move. It's like a fucking chess mate. Like right from the first move, you're positioning yourself like to stand out like dog's balls, right? Which was brilliant. I'm just unpacking sort of how you thought about it. I just love the way you looked at it.
It was very intuitive. You said that word because I didn't have the skills as an entrepreneur that I have now. But what we did see is we saw a gap that we needed to, I know it's a cliche word, but it's exactly right. We had to pivot. We had to change.
It's
and
constant.
we had to be malleable. And we had to, like you said, we had to listen to the market and iterate and then go, all right, well, we've got a different consumer than what we thought. Let's change that. We now need to adopt a different delivery model. Let's tweak that. We now need to adopt different comms. Constant, right?
Constant
And
change.
then we looked at it and the next thing was we're selling this $400 course like hotcakes. Okay, our LCVs.
How good did that feel? Just tell me, pause for a second, because anyone that started an offer, right, I guess, knows what it's like to fail, but very few know what it's like to succeed, right? We're going to touch on in a minute sort of the journey and how far you've gone and what that looked like. But I think you may agree that the best feeling in the world ever was the first time you experienced an offer work.
Oh my God.
Tell me,
it's next level.
If we're
right?
talking about a dopamine rush and I guess a feeling of euphoria, and something that gives you like those energetic bonus, so to speak, right? Like, it's you're in Thailand, you're looking at your PayPal account, like, dude, that feeling, tell me.
Here I am, I'm in Thailand, I'm training, I'm barely doing any work. And then I open up and it's just ding, 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 ding. And it is truly something else. And even today, like we've run a lot of offers since then in a lot of different businesses. And there is very few feelings as good as that.
As good as that. It's like scoring a goal. Do you ever play soccer or something as a kid?
It's
and when the ball hits the back of the net, that feeling,
it's
kind of that feeling,
right? It is. It's like that. You get that in sport, right? You get that little rush.
Yeah.
It's like, I just started playing golf this year, and it's when you hit a beautiful shot off the tee.
We're going to have to play down in Barrow one day. Yeah. So when you hit that, and it's like that feeling, it's so hard to describe. So that feeling, when you started seeing your PayPal account going off, if I could put it into one word, I would describe it as freedom. The reason I would use that feeling, because I've been there and I've been on that journey many times in different offers. And when you see that transaction go through, despite how little it might be a $9 one, it might be a $50 one, it could be a $400 one, it could be a $10,000 one. Like the feeling in one word to describe it is freedom.
Yeah.
And the reason I would use that word is because you literally now have unlocked something that gives you the financial means to be able to either scale and create more abundance in your life. And that abundance gives you one thing, it gives you autonomy, the ability to choose whatever the fuck you want, where you live, how you work, the type of work you do, how you serve people, how you show up in this world, what you donate to, what you invest into, how you give to your family, all that kind of stuff. So that feeling of freedom, no doubt, became addictive for you.
Absolutely.
So where did that lead to? Tell me about the pinnacle then of that journey, that business.
Yeah, so what we did is we obviously looked at the model and went, all right, we're selling these $400 like hotcakes, but why are we limiting our consumer to $400?
Yeah.
Why is the LCV $400, right? These people love what we do.
Did you have an upsell?
So then we went, all right,
Did
if
you
there's
have
a
an
level
upsell?
1 course, we need to have a level 2 course.
Yes.
If there's a level 2 course, we need to have a level 3 course. And then we went down this road where...
You might have been one of the pioneers, mate.
We were. We really were in this space. No doubt about it. We were delivering at our peak. We had 16 certified courses. We were the first people in Australia to write courses on kettlebells, battling ropes, mobility, bags, all of these different functional tools. We were getting demands from all around Australia and requests. We spoke at some of the biggest conferences around the world. We were on some of the biggest stages in Southeast Asia in particular, but I've presented in the States, I've presented in Canada. And so it just created this just momentum, and it was phenomenal. At its peak, we had about 30 people delivering courses. We were in 16 different countries, and it was a lot of fun.
So let's double click on that, because the formula in that is something called a problem solution problem, right? So the first thing we look at when we're creating an offer and sort of building a business or something like that is we'll look at what's the first problem we're going to solve, the grassroots, what is the main need, the core offer that needs a solution right now. What tends to happen is the minute you solve that problem, what you identified was, hang on a sec, if these guys have just gone through their level 1, well, then we need a level 2, but this is why we need a level 2. Now, often the mistake that entrepreneurs will make is they create a product and then think about the problem they're going to solve. Whereas you've kind of reverse engineered it. Well, you reverse engineered it in the right way, which is you went, well, what's the problem? Well, let's create a product that then solves that. And then you recognize with your journey, well, hang on a sec, there's now a new problem. The new problem is once they know these levels of skills, which is fundamental or foundational, there's some advanced stuff here that they don't know, which if they want to excel in, then you created a new product to solve a higher level problem. And so that's been basically the way I've learned, and I've studied some of the best entrepreneurs globally through masterminds and just intention. And the framework that they use is always that problem, solution, problem.
Yeah.
And so you've gone on your journey. And so then that business reached its pinnacle. What was it like? What was its pinnacle that then you then went on to do the next thing? Because there's something else that you've done since then.
It was at its pinnacle just coming out of COVID. I really thought COVID was going to be the death of the business itself. We were on shaky ground, my business partner and I.
It was shaky for so many ways, so many people. Yeah.
And we'd taken on a lot of debt. We'd bought a big building. We had invested a lot in a lot of technology. My business partner and I were just starting to get misaligned in terms of values and vision. And then COVID was interesting because I thought COVID would be the death knell of us. We ended up having our highest grossing month ever in COVID because what were people doing? They had time on their hands. They wanted to study. They wanted to do education. And so COVID was actually brilliant for the business itself. But I always had this itch that I needed to scratch because I was serving all these great practitioners and technicians and coaches out there, and they were wonderful. They were so well-intentioned. They were so invested in becoming better, yet they couldn't run a business to save their life.
Didn't have the skills.
They didn't have the skills. And so here they were, and they were just slaving away for barely any money. The industry was just churning and burning them. People would barely ever last. And I said, look, by that point, we were about 10 years into our business journey. Over the last decade, I've learned some skills in business
that you can pass on.
That I can pass on. And I wanted to start a mastermind that created an avenue for that to happen. And so 8 years ago, I started my very first mastermind. It was called Game Changer. We had about 10 to 12 people in it.
Yeah, awesome.
And it was fantastic. And so here I was. I sold the studio then. So it still exists today. Had a really successful sale.
So you had an exit.
Had a great exit, 2.5 times net profit on an independent studio.
Brilliant.
We ended up expanding that studio. So it wasn't the one shop, it was 3 shops when we did so. And then I had the Functional Training Institute, which was the courses. And then within the Functional Training Institute, we also had the mentoring, the Game Changer program. We'd also bought a building and started a gym. The gym was primarily there to host our workshops and do all of our filming. So we had all these pieces, and I was at crossroads. And after, it was probably about 3 years ago now, I just said to my business partner, I just said, we want different things. He said, I agree.
Yep.
I said, I think it's time to part ways. Let's talk about how to cut this up. I ended up taking the business coaching out. That ended up being mine. He still continues with the Functional Training Institute today. It still operates. It still delivers.
Brilliant.
He's doing an incredible job. And I just went, I'm going all in the coaching space.
On the coaching space. So you've gone all in on the coaching space, and now you help coaches that, are they individuals, or is it like, studios and studio owners?
Yeah, so our primary market are studio owners. Now, we do have independent PTs. I've also do a lot of bespoke consulting to big gym owners, like mega gym owners with multi-locations. But our core market for the mastermind, which we have about 150 clients in, are independent studio owners.
The people that come to you, I guess, we talked about skills, and that is really the difference between whether or not someone can elevate their life or not. Right? I mean, the genesis actually starts a little earlier, right? Because skill is one thing, but there's something that starts a little earlier. And this, I'll be interested to sort of get your perspective on this, because everyone has access to the same information these days. Information is free. It's readily available. You can look on YouTube, ChatGPT. I mean, there's no shortage of information on how to build a business, on how to create SOPs, on how to scale, something, because all you got to do is again, prompt ChatGPT, and it's going to tell you. But there's something that is critical that if they don't get right from the beginning, then they're never going to break through. And all the coaching, all the masterminding will not matter. And it's in fact a cliche word, but when you hear it, you're going to go, fuck, it's so true. It's the mindset. And so I'd love to sort of get a bit of perspective on that, because like you, I speak to people every day, right, about expansion, business, coaching, whatever. And the difference is often our own internal beliefs.
Absolutely.
And so many cliche statements can come from this, but like whether you believe it's true, it is true, or whether you believe it is not true, it's also, true. So if you could, I suppose, give us a bit of an idea about what it takes to break free from being average, I guess, or being stuck in being the technician. The technician is something so many people get caught in, right? I love being a technician, but to become a business owner, to become a business leader, to create the functional institute, to then go and create a mastermind, at some point, that technician that you were had to die.
That's right. Your identity needs to shift.
Yeah. Let's take a quick pause now. If you're watching or listening right now, it tells me something about you. Like you want more out of life, more time and more freedom, and possibly even more control over where you live and how you actually earn. But most people never actually take the leap. That's the crazy thing. They stay stuck in routines that drain them, clocking in, clocking out, trading hours for what I would describe as pure survival. Now, you weren't built for that. You were built for so much more, for what I would describe as freedom. The kind of freedom that lets you work from anywhere, live on your terms, and actually enjoy what you do. And that's exactly why I built the Freedom Academy. It's a system that teaches you the one high income skill that gives you all three. Remote high ticket sales is exactly that skill. It's the ability to earn 10 to 30K a month in commissions working from anywhere in the globe, using nothing but your laptop or your voice. So if you're done with living on someone else's schedule and you're sick and tired of the 9 to 5, go to the link in the show notes and apply today, because freedom isn't found, it's actually built. All right, let's get back to the show.
We teach a model, because you're exactly spot on, is we teach incredible strategies and tactics that are innovative, that will get you results if you deploy
Business
them.
results.
Business results.
Marketing.
Phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. But if you haven't shifted your identity, if you haven't shifted your beliefs, then they're almost superfluous, right? Because you will always get in your own way.
What are some of those beliefs?
Yeah. So I teach a model, which is the 4 H's, right, to growing a business. The baseline is your heart. And your heart it really is your vibrational energy. And everybody has an energy. Some people have an energy that is abundance, that is joy, that is self-actualization. Other people have an energy that is they're always trapped in fear. They're trapped in scarcity. They're trapped in comparing against one another. So that's your heart. And we need to, how do we shift that vibrational energy? So because energy is the most attractive thing as a business owner. The second H is your head. So that is that we are just a collection of our beliefs. That's what we are. 100%. And a lot of people have limiting beliefs. Now, you might go, well, why would I have a limiting belief? It's quite often an unconscious belief. So you're not even aware of that. But what the human mind craves is certainty. And when we are asking people all of a sudden to start making all this money, that creates uncertainty. That creates this unknown. And so what do they want to do? They want to revert to what is safe. What has always been there their entire life.
The way it's always been.
The way it's always been.
Despite how uncomfortable it might be, it's comfortable.
It's comfortable, right? And so we often will go, well, I want to grow $1 million business. But when you start doing so and you start having some success, unknowingly, you'll self-sabotage in certain ways.
Blow shit up.
You'll blow it up. And we see it happen all the time. And we see it in the weight loss world, right? Because people will lose weight. And what do? They yo-yo because we have shifted how they see themselves, and that is scary as all hell.
Destabilizes them.
And destabilizes them. So I talk a lot in particular. There's lots of limiting beliefs. There's lots of beliefs that keep people stuck. But probably the core is their relationship with money. So I talk a lot about their relationship with money. Now, they might not be aware of it, but it shows up in lots of different ways. So it will show up by them undercharging. It will show up with them as soon as they start making it, they spend it. It will show up in them hoarding it and not wanting to spend any of it and cut expenses to try and squirrel it all away. It will show up in them not chasing debts that are outstanding. It will show up in discounting when there's a bit of an objection from a sales perspective. So it will show up in many different ways. It
So
will
many ways.
manifest itself in so many ways. The underlying cause is your relationship with money. Now, your relationship with money started, a lot of our core beliefs start when we're very young. So it would be things that our parents said. It would be money doesn't grow on trees, or we can't afford that, or money is the root of all evil. It may have come, if you grew up in a church, from some false theology. And so these beliefs are shaping us, or we've just observed money is scarce, so it's always going to be scarce, or if it is scarce, I better hold on to it. That then gets in the way of you doing what you need to do from a business perspective, because if you start making money, you're just going to go and spend it. You're going to justify not putting up your prices. You're not going to chase the money when it's there because you're comfortable. You're not actually giving the money a purpose or a use, because all money is energy. And
It's energy exchange of value.
That's all
It's an
it is.
exchange of value.
It's just an exchange of value. And so the first step, if someone is out there going, holy hell, this guy's kind of landing some stuff that's hitting me between the eyes.
Yeah.
The
Hopefully,
first,
if you're listening, hopefully, if this is hitting you between the eyes, comment, let us know what's hit you between the eyes.
That's right. So the first step is you've got to identify it. You can't do anything like if you don't identify it. So we've got
to acknowledge it.
You've got to acknowledge it. We have to look and go, you know what? I used to hear mum say, that's too expensive, or we can't afford that, or money doesn't grow on trees, or whatever else it is, or, they're rich and that's evil, or, they must have done something dodgy to get rich. We see someone in a Lambo, he's a drug dealer, right? So we need to acknowledge it. That's the first step. We need to identify it. We then need to go and ask ourselves how is this belief serving us now? Because it did serve us to a point. It kept us safe. But how is it serving us moving forward?
But often something that keeps you safe doesn't mean that it's the best thing for you.
100%.
Because the most unsafe thing to do sometimes is to stay put.
100%. 100%. So it's no longer keeping us safe. It has had its use. That belief now needs to be elevated. Then we need to adopt a more empowering belief. So for me, empowering beliefs around money are, money is just a reflection of the value that I give to the world. If I serve more people and I solve bigger problems, I'm going to make more money. And that's what I want to do. I want to serve.
It's a reframe.
It's a reframe. So what's the new empowering belief that you have to have? That's not enough, though. Just to have an empowering belief is not enough. You then need to give evidence to that belief itself.
Yep.
And
with action.
With action. So it's putting up the prices. It's when you get money in, it might be not just squirreling it away, but it might be reinvesting and giving that money a purpose and a use.
Giving it a use.
Yeah.
Putting it to work.
Putting it to work. Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so that's the process that we shift the beliefs. So the information's there, we shift the belief. Now, the third H is the hands. That is the skills themselves. And you're going to need to develop certain skills at different levels of your business. So early on, the skills, if you're out there and you're self-employed, you're a freedom fighter, you're an entrepreneur, and you want to grow, but you're in your infancy, the skills are generally going to be around how do I generate leads and how do I sell those leads? It's going to be very much around marketing and sales. Now, when you start building seven-figure businesses, multi-seven-figure businesses like you have, Shane, the skills become different. Now, all of a sudden, you have to develop the skill of management of people. You need to develop the skill of leadership. You need to develop the skill of financial literacy. And so the skill game never ends.
Never ends. As you get through that journey, you'll be shocked at what skills are actually screaming at you for you to learn.
Correct.
And in fact, if you deny that and if you don't observe and pay attention to those things, well, then it's going to show up. Your business will start to fall to bits. The marketing will go to shit. People will start to leave your organization.
Yeah, business is a mirror. And so right now, it will tell you where your skill deficiency is. It will tell you where your belief gap is. It will show you what the constraints are. And so right now, you might be great at sales and marketing, but the mirror is it's chaotic. I've got people all over the place. It's constant stress. It's reactive all the time. And so that's the skill that you need to then go and develop itself. And you need to be purposeful about that. You need to go, okay, what's the skill and what does my skill development plan look like? What masterminds am I joining? What books am I reading?
Life by design.
Life by design. And so we just keep coming up. We're always going to come up against this lid and we need to elevate the lid. And it's through identification and purpose. The fourth H is how. So once we've got our heart sorted out, we've worked on our internal state, we've got our head sorted out with our beliefs, we now have our hands, we've got the skills, It's like, what is the game plan? What is the strategy? What is the 90-day plan, the 1-year plan, the 3-year plan that is going to get us to where we need to get to?
Implementation.
It is.
What I love there, you've talked about heart, head, hands, and how. And in your own way, I love frameworks. Frameworks for those that don't understand them are simply like a formula that someone uses to explain the way by which they help you achieve an outcome. And I often talk about the freedom formula and my version of, what you've shared there. I love that, you've talked about heart being energy, and you sort of gave an example of two sort of contradictory types of energy. One is by abundance and one is, scarcity. And so, I talk about in the freedom formula that the first, I suppose, pillar is your thought process, because your thoughts dictate how you show up emotionally. So if you operate from a place of abundance, then you feel abundant. And therefore then, how you perceive what's going on around you, whether it be things outside of your control, whatever it is as opportunity. You feel hopeful, and therefore that emotion and that state that you present in will dictate then your actions.
Correct.
So those actions, meaning when I do receive money, what do I do with the money? Do I hoard it? Or do I use that money? And like you say, I love how you position that. Do I give it a fucking purpose? Do I put it to work for the greater good, for the expansion, for because I'm operating out of a place of abundance. And then when we I guess take that action and we implement, the last stage then is the result. Because you talked about, business being a mirror, where our thought process is a mirror of our life. If you want to know what someone, I guess, how they operate, what state they're in, just look at the state of their life. The results of their life is a direct mirror of how they think.
Yes.
Because it determines their emotional state, it determines their level of action they take, and then it determines, and you can't fucking deny that. You cannot run from that. It is what it is. So if you're in a place where you're dissatisfied with your life, all you got to do is trace it up the chain, go upstream, and you're going to find a thought, limiting belief, something that's there. You may not have even known it was there. That's the cause. That's the root cause. And I love that. So you teach this and you implement this to help those that enter into your mastermind break the shackles.
Yeah, they need to
expand, and you said to lift that ceiling.
Yeah, you mentioned something, a key word earlier before I detailed the model, and that is identity. And so a lot of the time they come in with the identity.
What kind of identity? Yeah.
They're a coach. They're a technician. There's someone
It's damaging.
that works in the business, right? And it's damaging, but it worked to a point.
To a point, yeah.
And so our identity will always work to a point. And James Clear talks about it in Behavior Change and Atomic Habits. He said it's the identity has to shift first, because once the identity shifts, then that's when we start to support that with the actions and then the actual results of those actions. But it must come from the identity. So we work on going, okay, this is the coach. This is how it served you. Now we need you to up level. We need you to become a leader, a CEO, an operator. That's the identity we need you to operate. And we want you to look through that lens. We want you, when you're planning your day, when you're working the time in the business, it's not what would a coach do, it's what would a CEO do.
What would a CEO do?
Yeah. And so you're looking through it through that lens, and it's like, let's come back to that North Star. Would the CEO go and do 10 sessions in a day? No, they wouldn't. Would the CEO go and fill in for everybody that's sick all the time? No, they wouldn't. Would the CEO go and have to write the programs, all day? No, they wouldn't. What would the CEO do? The CEO is going to be a visionary. They're going to see what's out there. They're going to see where things are developing. The CEO is going to do some market research. The CEO is going to innovate. They're going to ideate. The CEO is going to inspire the team towards a common vision and mission. They're going to become a great communicator. They're going to be a leader of people. They're going to create other great leaders. And so that's the shift that needs to occur.
Powerful. And within that, sort of how I interpret that is whatever you choose, you accept. So if you choose to spend your time in lower level tasks, then you accept that existence forever. Whereas if you start to reject that and say, well, no, hang on a second, if I want to become this type of person, then how do I need to be investing my time? What does proportionately my week need to look like? You know, there's a concept, and Dr. Benjamin Hardy talks about in Be Your Future Self Now, right? And it goes to the same light where basically he says, you know, there are people that will say, I want to be a presenter. I want to talk from stage. I want to stand and I want to share my vision and whatever. But then you look at their week, and there is zero level of action. They haven't shifted their identity yet because you know they haven't shifted their identity yet because their week proportionally has no time invested to being that person now. So you can never be that person on a stage in a year, 2 years, 3 years from now unless you decide today that you already are that person. So it's not about I want to become, it's I already am. And it's by stating, using the word in the now I am,
yes,
shifts your identity, and I already am that person. My life is just catching up. And so think about it like this, right? So that person, they want to talk on stage. They want to present. I'm just giving a little example. It could be a business owner saying, I want to lead a multi-chain gym or something. But then you look at their week and there is nothing that they are doing that demonstrates they already are that business leader, that CEO, that corporate speaker, whatever it is. So for example, you know, years ago, I wanted to expand into what I'm doing now. The very first thing I had to start doing was sharing my thoughts, my ideas, my vision, creating content. So proportionately, my week had to go from being the operator doing personal training sessions to eliminating those things, to rejecting those things, to start creating room in my life to do the thing that I already knew I wanted to become, and therefore already was. If that made sense, right?
I love that. Yeah, two things that are really paramount for everybody listening and watching out there. Number one, you said I am, right? It's not I will. It is
I am.
I am. So that the language is so powerful. The second thing is I love Benjamin Hardy. His model is very similar to Stephen Covey's, which is be, do, have. So what do you want to be? I want to be the CEO. I want to be the visionary. I want to be the leader of this business that takes it to the next level. All right, well, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to be that person. I am going to be that person.
Right now.
So what would they do? What are the actions they take? How do they plan their day? How do they plan their week? How do they communicate? How do they develop themselves? How do they show up every day? Because I'm going to do those things. And if I do those things, consistency with consistency and intensity, I'm going to have the outcomes of that. But it starts with the B. And that's not enough because a lot of people are out there going, I want to be this, I want.
And that means fuck all.
Show me that you want it. Show me your calendar for tomorrow. All right. Yeah. Show me your calendar for next week.
Show me your time and show me your money.
Yeah.
Because we vote with our feet and we vote with our dollars. You know, what you truly value is where you invest your most valuable resources. And that is your time, your money, like in your energy, right? So I love that. So being is cheap. In other words, I want to be, I want this, I want that.
Yeah.
So then it's the do.
It's the
what
do.
What do you do?
Yeah. So, you know, number one, release the shackles and look in the mirror and go, I am a great leader, or I am a 7-figure business owner, or whatever it may be. In the affirmative, I am. Get out of your own way. Release those shackles. Work on those beliefs. Work on the box of birds, your head. Then start showing up.
Box of birds, I love that.
And start doing what they would do, right? Embody them. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have those results.
So it's the be, the wanting that needs the action step, the doing. And the doing is where a lot of people get caught up, right? Because the next stage of wanting and then the doing is where I would say 90, and this is just a number I'm pulling out of my ass, right? Like the 99% of people fall off because they get caught in this perfectionism and they disguise their disruptive emotions, their fear of rejection, of failure, whatever it is, with perfectionism.
They just create a narrative.
You create obstacles for yourself.
Yeah, they just create a narrative.
Whereas when we look back to your journey, it was the action in the imperfection that led to you creating an offer that got people to your fucking studio, booked out. You're in fucking Thailand, your PayPal's going nuts. Then you realize, well, actually, there's another market to serve. So it was the imperfect action that then led to more imperfect action, then offers and success, and then it compounds. Now, this is where most people get stuck in the doing.
Yeah, they do. And they just create a narrative that isn't true. They will create some kind of bullshit whether it's I don't have the time right now, I don't have the expertise right now, I'm too young, I'm too old, it needs to be like this, it needs to be like that. That is all just a narrative, a fabricated world that you've created to let yourself off the hook.
Yeah, to give yourself permission to not do anything.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's disguised and it's
deceitful
criminal.
and
It's
deceptive.
Yeah, it's criminal in a sense, right? You're becoming your own roadblock. And so the doing. So give me something that you say to people that are in that mode. It helps them get the fuck out of the way.
Yeah.
And just be, it's a relationship. On my way here this morning, I was listening to Tony Robbins and he was giving an example about the relationship with success and failure and how they're so finely or so closely balanced. But it's our frame by which there is no success without failure, first and foremost.
Yes.
They are married together.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not, they coexist. But it's the frame by which you look at failure that determines the level of success that ultimately you go on to achieve. You and I have both failed.
Absolutely.
More than most people could tolerate in 3 lifetimes.
Yeah.
And so they sit in this safety, they don't do anything. And because they don't do anything, because they're fearful of failing, they've already failed.
Absolutely. Whether you make a decision or not, it's been made for you, right?
It's been made for you.
Yeah.
And so, he talked about in this example that they're so closely tied together, but it's the frame by which you look at it. And I always say to my teams, I've led, sales teams and all kinds of things, right? And I'll always say to them, you never, in fact, you never lose. What you do is you learn. And because now, irrespective of what happened, whether it be in a sale, whether it be in a business or a marketing campaign, or it doesn't matter what it is. It could be in a marriage, for example. You haven't failed. What you now have learned is not ideal, what you don't like or what doesn't work, and therefore you're moving forward. It's progress. The concept of the gap and the gain is where you see yourself, well, okay, now I know where things need to shift and change, how I need to show up differently, what I need to do better next time. And you've just proven to yourself that you've excelled as long as you reframe it from losing to learning.
Yeah, it's very closely aligned with Carol Dweck's mindset concept, right?
Yeah.
And so you've got a growth mindset or you have a fixed mindset. And the growth-minded person, they will embrace discomfort, they will embrace challenge, they will look at every interaction as an opportunity to learn. Where the fixed-minded person, their identity is so fixed to whether they fail or not that they end up only creating situations where they don't evolve or change. And so they end up stuck.
Hormozy talks about risk tolerance. And he says, that individual that's not prepared to lose 100,000 will never make 1 million. If you're not prepared to lose 1 million, you're never going to make 10 million. If you're not prepared to lose 10, you're never going to make 100, right? So it's our relationship with failure, with risk, that ultimately determines the heights to which we scale, right? So it's our attitude that determines our altitude.
It is. I also think it comes back to our identity as well, because
it shapes back to that.
It shapes back to that because if you've now created an identity for yourself where you are afraid, it's like the kid in the class, right? They've created an identity that they are the smartest kid in class. Their parents have told them, "You're so smart, little Johnny. You're amazing." They take that on, and so I'm smart. And so they don't want to see themselves as anything that would compromise that identity. So they won't put their hand up in the classroom because they might be wrong. That compromises the identity that has been created. And so the person that is growth-minded, that is embracing risks, that has that risk tolerance, their identity is okay with it. Their identity is, I'm an avid learner. I learn through every interaction that I have. They don't look at it as absolute, I'm a success or a failure. They just look and go, well, what can I derive from this situation, this circumstance?
It's interesting that we've sort of circled on this so much. And I think for anyone listening, it's powerful. Your identity shapes everything then that you experience in this world. Like a CEO, for example, would not tolerate a low-paying job. They wouldn't tolerate being offered something that didn't match their social status. So our identity matches what we believe to be our social status. This is a powerful thing because I'm also listening to a lot on this at the moment, which really shapes a lot of exchanges as well, even in sales. The ability to position ourselves in a social hierarchy determines the outcomes by which, so then we can influence situations. It's kind of like if someone sees themselves at a certain socioeconomic status, unless they shift their identity, they'll never break out of that. They'll always self-sabotage, end up at the pokies or end up doing dumb shit or accepting jobs that pay, low levels and don't allow them to break out of their socioeconomic, status, because that is their identity. This is who I am. And therefore then it's kind of then a confirmation bias that I'll look for evidence to support. Well, that's who I am. And they create their own limits. So it's breaking free. I mean, like, it sounds like one of your main jobs, like in your mastermind and what you do with fit pros, so wanting to become CEOs and scale offers and whatever. It sounds like one of the main things that you focus on and you do for these people is help them break those shackles, smash their ceilings, to believe that they can, to shift the I am, and to allow them to expand into possibility and grow into the version of themselves that they need to become.
I give this example, and I didn't create this, I heard it somewhere, but this is my version of it, is everyone has a baseline temperature. All of us have this baseline temperature. And let's just say your baseline temperature is 20 degrees. And then all of a sudden you start making some sales and you might get in some more equipment. You might expand the space and now you've done a nice fit out. You might take on a second space. All of a sudden your baseline temperature has gone to 20 to 21 to 22 to 23. However, it's at this 23-degree point that things are you're looking around going, oh, this doesn't feel right. This is compromising that identity, because I had an identity in from a socioeconomic perspective, from a social standing perspective. And that's when you start to see that 23 drop down to the 22, 21, back to the 20, because that is what I know. That is where I'm fixed safe on. That is where I'm safe. So how do we go up and how do we stay up?
How do we do that?
So there's a couple of different ways. Number one is I'm a huge believer in environmental influence. Massive believer.
Law of proximity.
Law of proximity is huge.
So powerful.
And people underestimate it. And
that's actually one of the main powerful reasons to get in a mastermind.
100%.
Not even for the tactics. It's just be around winners, because when you're around winners, it's impossible not to become a winner.
You can't, right? Like, you look at them and you go, all right, I'm around other 7-figure business owners. Okay, how are they thinking? What are they doing? How are they behaving? How are they showing up? How are they communicating? How are they leading? And then you start to model that, and it shows you what is possible. That's why I'm a huge believer in live events. I'm traveling all around Australia and New Zealand, and I'm just getting all my guys in rooms all the time.
Networking, rubbing shoulders, shaking hands, feeling the energy, sharing a meal, having a conversation, exchanging belief.
It's invaluable.
It's the most powerful thing about a mastermind.
It is. And so there'll be a lot of people go out there going, well, Dan, what you teach I can probably get from YouTube and ChatGPT and books. And you know what? You're probably right, right? We've got some special sauce, but you're probably right. But you can't get the environmental impact.
Can't get it.
It is second to none. And so, yes, AI is going to turn industries upside down. It will never touch
exchange. It will never take over in that way. It never can.
Never can. Will. So if anyone's out there and they're experiencing some success, then you want to be in rooms where people are modeling that success. They're challenging you. You're having the conversations over meals, and you just understand the psyche.
I experienced that, in Russell Brunson's mastermind. For me, it was, not just any room. It was about being in a room where I was the smallest fish, big pond, so to speak. And by doing that, again, it just challenges the narrative. The I am gets expanded even further. The challenge becomes, well, I'm thinking like this.
Yes.
But how do I think like this? And so it's the ability to look up and to look at things from a different perspective and to challenge yourself, not so much even more about sort of what do I need to do, but who do I need to become?
Yeah.
And who do I need to become? Then, who is it that I need to attract into my world? And we start changing from what to who. And that expansion, then it just changes everything. So, I agree. The law of proximity, the osmosis.
It's absolutely paramount. And I remember my first experience, similar to yourself. I joined Taki Moore's boardroom. I thought, my mastermind is going great. I got 30 people. I was charging not enough. And then I spoke to people, and even in the same industry, in terms of fitness industry, they were charging double what I had and had triple, quadruple the numbers I had. And I was like, holy hell, this is what's possible. You've just shown me what is possible. And that was
changes your belief.
Life-changing.
Changes your belief. So like we sort of started on earlier, like even within your framework, to wrap this up, it changes your energy. It then changes, I guess, your beliefs, because more is possible. It then goes back to your hands, which means you start to do different things. And you start marketing in a different way. You start looking at business models in a different way. You start selling in different ways. And then, of course, your implementation expands and doubles down or triples down. I suppose then, to wrap this up, and it's been amazing sort of getting some insight. I love the backstory, but I love the frameworks. More importantly, it's not just about helping fitness professionals. You're helping humans break free. Like, you help people expand, think differently, behave differently, believe differently, implement on another level, which ultimately impacts not just their life, but their communities, their families, and other people. So it's a powerful framework. So tell me, who do you still want to become? Like, where do you see yourself going?
I love that question. And like we discussed when we talked about the hands, the journey, you're always developing the skills.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always got different constraints in business. And when I look back, I was the personal trainer and I had to become the leader of trainers in my studio. We did that. We scaled. We had a successful Excel.
Called expanding the market.
I was the kettlebell instructor. Then I created a team. We had about 30 at our peak, and I was the leader of the team, and we expanded our influence. In my coaching business, I'm the coach. I've got an incredible, just wonderful team of coaches. But I am still in this position where I'm coaching a lot. I'm doing a lot. I'm developing a lot of the curriculum. And it's now that next evolution for me as a leader. How do I become a leader within this space in particular? Because right now we're always the bottleneck in business. And right now I am the bottleneck in my business. I need to become a better leader, a better visionary, a better innovator, a better communicator. And it is that work that I'm doing on myself right now so we can continue to grow and continue to have the impact. Because right now, we're not having enough. Right now, there's opportunities. We're working with 150. That's not a lot. There's a lot more people that need our help. And I am the bottleneck in those people getting that help. And it's completely related to my leadership ability. John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid. And he says it doesn't matter your skills, your charisma, your work ethic, your attitude. None of it matters if you're not elevating your leadership ability. That leadership 100%. Ability will always...
It's how the cookie crumbles.
It is how the cookie crumbles.
The Japanese say a fish rots from the head, right?
That's it. And so for me, it's like, all right, who are the leaders that I admire? What are the skills they have? What are the attitudes? What are the standards?
Standards. Oh, that's a podcast in
itself.
That's
that is a big podcast.
Holy shit. We'll leave that for another one. So I guess, to wrap this up, then how do you define freedom?
Freedom for me is really simple. It's doing more of the things that I love with the people that I love.
How good is that? And that's worth fighting for.
That's worth
Daniel
fighting
Henderson, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Even just we talk about proximity and energy. You've got an energy that is impossible to not feel and be influenced by. You're a big picture thinker, and I just love the fact that you're still aiming for more, which is a testament to you. And for those listening, if they're not following you yet, why the fuck are you not? Right? So where can they follow you and find you?
Yeah, so we've got a wonderful podcast that I'm really proud of that you were just on, Profit Made Simple. So you can get that on YouTube. On IG, I'm just Coach Dan Henderson. There's no underscore or anything else. It's just Coach Dan Henderson. They're going to be the best two places.
Well, my friend, thank you again for coming on the Freedom Formula podcast. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure we will get you back on, and maybe we can talk about the some of the other things that we just can't touch on. Just so much.
There is. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you,
Shane.
mate. So there you have it. What an episode, and what a pleasure, having that conversation. And it always feels like it is never enough. So we may very well get Daniel Henderson back on the Freedom Formula podcast. And if you listen to this episode and you were touched, if you were moved, if you were inspired, then do not sit in silence. That is the worst thing that you could possibly do. Like, comment, share with us. We want to hear what it is that you actually took away from this conversation, because we don't do this just for the sake of it. We do this because we want to create change. We want to impact you, want to inspire you. And the best way to commit to that is for you to let us know, well, what is it that inspired you? What is it that touched you? And what is it that you are going to do about what you've learned today? And that will help us understand more and more the types of things that you want to hear about and what it is that we can do on this show to be able to help you create true freedom in your life. So if you haven't yet hit the like or subscribe button, do so now. Do not be a voyeur. Hit that button so that we can continue to expand and create the impact that we want to do in this show. And we'll see you on the next one.